Hello everybody and welcome to the third instalment of our International E-Commerce webinar series. My name is Gemma Price and I am the Content and Community Manager at Open to Export. For those of you that are new here, Open to Export is a free online community of businesses, government departments, business support organisations and trade associations. The community comes together in our discussion forum to help British businesses become better, smarter and more confident when doing business abroad. We are proud to be supported by our founding partners, UK Trade and Investment, the Federation of Small Businesses, the Institute of Export and HIBU. Now, our scheduled runtime today is 1 hour, so we'll finish off the session around 3:30. We're going to be taking your questions throughout the session and putting them to our expert panel. So you can interact with us using your control panel, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll see a chat box where you have the ability to post questions to us, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Now, we're also going to be recording the entire session, so you don't need to worry about taking notes on this one. We'll get this uploaded to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/open to export as quick as we can, so you can watch it back again along with our other international e-commerce webinars. Now, we're going to do something that we've not done before on this one. So traditionally, we've run a mentoring session directly after the main webinar. Today, we're going to be continuing the discussion on our Twitter. So that's at Open to Export, and we're going to be using the hashtag OTEecom, and it should be in the bottom left-hand corner of each of the slides you see on the screen. So do keep the questions coming in and the discussion going on after the main session. We have an excellent speaker lineup today. We have Andy Geldman of WebRetailer, an online community of e-commerce and e-marketplaces, discussions and interactions. We have Ian Johnson, manager of JMD Online Limited, a fantastic bedding and linen company. We also have Trevor Jin of Hello Baby Direct, and Gary Reeve of fulfilment company Seco Synergy. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Andy, who will be chairing the session, to explain a little bit about WebRetailer and take us through his top 10 tips for internationalising your e-commerce operations. Andy, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Gemma. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name's Andy Geldman. I run a site called WebRetailer, and you can visit that at webretailer.com. Just want to thank everybody for actually joining the webinar on this beautiful sunny day. I'm sure everyone was tempted to go outside or go for a drink at the local pub, so it's great that you've been able to join us. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about WebRetailer. It's a community site for online sellers. Currently has just a few under 10,000 registered members. It's 9,900 and something, so I've rounded up a little bit for the slide. I've worked on the site for over 10 years now. It used to be called the Auction Software Review, so you may have come across it under that name. And something I've been doing a lot of this year is writing articles about marketplace selling, e-commerce, talking to sellers, e-commerce experts, vendors of software, to try and get some really good quality information out there for people like you, small and medium-sized businesses who are selling online. So that's everything about me. There's a lovely screenshot of my site there. That isn't me, by the way, in the picture. That's John Lawson, who's a very well-known eBay seller and e-commerce expert from the States, who I interviewed about using social media to help promote your online business. Okay, so what we want to do is try and get questions from you throughout the session. So it's a great opportunity to ask questions about your business, problems you're having, things that you'd like to do, that you want to get information on. Anything really that you can think of that you think myself and the panel can help you with. So please do use the GoToMeeting chat box. You just type your question in there and send it over. And you can start doing that now. No need to wait. Just as soon as something comes to you, please ask a question. So I've got some tips about selling internationally through your online store or through marketplaces. So tip number one is to start slow if you can. I think often sellers, particularly on marketplaces, find that they sell internationally more or less by accident. They weren't expecting or aiming to sell across borders, but it just happened. They started getting orders. Now, if you're in the position where that hasn't happened and you want to start selling internationally, try to do it a little bit at a time. There's quite a few unique challenges with selling internationally. So if you don't have to face them all at once, that will help you and give you a more manageable learning curve. If it's already started happening, you may feel like it's a good idea to scale back and maybe reduce the international visibility of your listings so you can expand at a pace that you can manage. So following on from that, tip number two is to get your priorities right and face those early challenges. So there can be some really early challenges, like let's take your first return. The first time a buyer from abroad wants to return an item and they send you a customer service request in a language you don't understand. So make sure you face those early challenges before you move on to scale up even further. Tips 3 and 4 are around your inventory, so your stock, your products that you sell, and using software to help yourself expand. So there's lots of software packages out there for managing your sales, your marketing, and your inventory. When we talk to the panel, we can cover some of those. These are very useful tools to actually make it easy to sell to other countries. Tip number 5 is to look outside Amazon and eBay. We often find that for small and medium-sized businesses selling online, these two marketplaces are hugely dominant. And they're particularly dominant in the UK, but they're not dominant everywhere in the world. And even where they are strong, there are other marketplaces that can be worth using. It's different for different businesses, so it's definitely worth considering other ways of selling. So other marketplaces and, of course, your own store as well. Tips 6 and 7 are around the relatively boring topic of logistics. So getting your orders out the door, getting them to the people who've bought them. And after the sale, if something's gone wrong, how do you actually get those orders back to you? The returns process is more complex when the sale is international. And how do you refund the payment? That can be a little more complex. Tips 8 and 9 are around customer service and reputation. So with international selling, customer service can be more of a challenge. There's the relatively obvious part of that, which is language. So just not speaking the same language as your buyers is an immediate problem. But you might also be in a different time zone. So if you have a buyer who's expecting a response within an hour or two, but they're in Australia 10 to 12 hours ahead of you, just responding within a time they find acceptable could be difficult. And I think there's more capacity for mistrust and misunderstandings when you're selling across borders. I think there's something about that huge distance, thousands of miles that you can have between seller and buyer, that means the buyers, I think, tend to be just a bit more likely to think that something's going wrong. Maybe you're doing something underhand. So it's even more important than ever to prepare for that and deal with it well. And finally, tip number 10, to be pragmatic about getting outside help. There's a wider range of skills and requirements when you're selling internationally, and it may be too big a deal to bring all of those skills in-house immediately. So again, translation is one of those things that often businesses look to outsource when they're selling internationally. Another is fulfilment. So rather than having to handle the logistical process of getting orders out the door overseas, some sellers decide to outsource that and just say, right, that's not something we want to have to learn ourselves now. We'll let somebody else do it. So those are my 10 top tips. I know that's a quick run through. I'm not expecting that to really give you lots of answers. I'm more thinking it'll get you thinking. So please, if there's any questions that came up there or something about your own business that it made you think of, just put your question in the chat box, and we'll try and cover it in the Q&A later. So next, I'm going to hand over to our panel to hear a little about them. They're going to introduce themselves to you. First up, we've got Trevor from Hello Baby. So over to you, please, Trevor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great, Trevor.
Okay, great. So I'm just checking before I start waffling on. Hi, yeah, we're a online retailer of baby and nursery products. We mainly sell for eBay and Amazon. We do about 50% of our sales internationally, of which about 2/3 of that is in Europe and 1/3 is outside Europe. We do most of our we've been selling on internationally since we first started selling, really. I mean, we started off selling just offering our products available for international sale. For people who went to eBay UK or Amazon UK, but now we sell directly on 6 Amazon sites and 7 eBay sites. So I think, international selling is one of the things we do quite well. So we turn over about $1.5 million a year at the moment in 4 different currencies.
Thanks a lot, Trevor. So impressive how you've managed to expand like that, and we'll get into the details of how you went about it in the Q&A. So next we're going to talk to Ian from JMD. Are you there, Ian?
Hello.
Hi, Ian. Could you just tell us some more about your business and your experience with international sales? How many sales you're making there?
Yeah, we started as part of the International Growth Program on eBay earlier this year. We'd sold a few bits and bobs through eBay without pushing internationals, but once we entered that, it's currently making up about 80% of our sales are international. Half of those are going to Australia, probably 1/3 of them to North America, and the rest towards Europe. The only thing we regret doing is not doing it earlier. A lot of people, I think, they were probably put off by the fact that a lot of people try to make it more complicated than it really is. And looking back, like I say, I wish we'd done it a lot sooner.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ian. And our third panelist is Gary from Seco Synergy. Could you tell us some more about you and your business, Gary, please?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Gary Rees from Seco Synergy. We're a small, medium-sized fulfilment company. We're about 170 people. We have about 250,000 square feet of space. Primarily, we like to think of ourselves much more as a tech company doing fulfillment rather than a company just putting, items in boxes where we can't add value. And we operate off a tremendous platform called Red Prairie, and we have, an option of straightforward API integrations or CSV drops or integrations into quite a lot of multi-channel software. About 15% of our orders are international, and I would say for everyone, the biggest challenge with international is for you to know your couriers intimately, what they offer, what their promises are, promises around signatures, PODs, and tracking. And I would say, in our opinion, the fulfillment isn't the issue. It's really nailing what it is you need during your onboarding process in terms of courier options. And that's something we're happy to help with.
Thanks a lot, Gary. So we're going to get straight into the Q&A now. So I've got some questions of my own, but I'd really love to mainly ask our panel questions from you, the participants in this webinar. We've already got some great questions, which I'm going to start putting to the panel, but please do, if there's something that you want to know that's going to help you in your business with expanding internationally, put it in the chat box, and I'll do my very best to get it to the panel. So I'm going to kick off with a question from Lorna. Lorna is wondering, how do you expand your international sales so much through eBay and Amazon? She particularly wanted to hear from Trevor on that, and a particular part of that is the process for translating and optimizing your listings for each country. Do you want to have a stab at that, Trevor?
Okay, well, I mean, obviously there's a number of countries that you don't have to translate for. So, obviously Canada, Australia. I mean, we do lots to Australia, for example, less so to Canada and USA, but they're still worthwhile. The translation we've done, I mean, we did it, we've got some international interns that have done most of the translation for us. So, I mean, I think, some people have done, which, has worked quite well for us. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's certainly cost effective. And some people just use, just use English translation. So I would say don't translate at all, just put the English listings up on the various European sites, which, probably works to an extent. Yeah, so does that cover the question? I've forgotten it now.
It does. I think it does part of it, Trevor. So something that so Lorna was specifically asking about translation. So you mentioned, I think, 3 or so.
I mean, there's kind of 2 bits of you. I mean, there's the translation of the listings. There's also the translation of the customer service. Now, I've covered how we got the translations done of the products. We actually use Google Translate to do the customer service, which if someone had told me would work quite well or adequately well for customer service, I wouldn't have believed them. But we seem to get away with it, so we don't have very many problems. So yeah, I mean, I think there are various companies out there that will translate listings for you. Some of them do it by machine translation. Some have people doing it. It's an expensive old business getting things translated. So I'm not quite. As I say, that's how I can only really tell you how I've got it done.
Yeah. Thanks, Trevor. I'll put it to Ian as well in a moment, because I know Ian sells on eBay and Amazon across borders as well. But just to pick out some of the points you made there,
I've got one last point. If you sell on Amazon, Amazon's a catalog-based system, so you can sell on a listing that's already there, so you don't have to translate anything at all. Mm-hmm. You just add your offer to a listing that already exists. I mean, the problem therefore comes if your products aren't already listed on there, but a lot of them will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've covered pretty much all of the different options for translation. I'm just going to pick them out to summarise them for the audience. So one is that, of course, there's countries that also speak English a little differently, but they speak English. So you've got the US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. There's also the option of using English to sell to countries even where it's not the first language. May not be ideal, but perhaps something you can experiment with. There's machine translation. So again, not ideal, and I agree with Trevor that if someone told me you could use machine translation, so that means automatic translation done by computers, not by people. If someone told me you could do that for customer service, I wouldn't believe them either, but if it works, it works. Then there's professional translation services. So one of the well-known services for eBay sellers in particular is WebInterpret. There are other services as well. And then I think the final thing Trevor mentioned was that because Amazon is catalog driven, if there's already a description for a product you sell in a foreign language on there, you can just use that description. How about you, Ian? What have you found to be a good way of translating and optimizing your listings for different countries when you're selling through eBay and Amazon?
Well, as part of the eBay growth program, they include the WebInterpret service as a trial, and we started using that. They translate listings for you, list them on the relevant sites, and all you do is wait for the orders to come in. Unfortunately, after the trial, it didn't really suit the way we wanted to do things. So all we're doing is getting students from the local university and translating the listings for us. Customer service, we use Google Translate, and we've had no problems at all with anything being lost in translation. It seems to work for us as well.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ian. And what about, is there any other type of optimization or anything else that you needed to do to your listings besides translation to make them work for other countries?
Well, I mean, oh, sorry, you're not talking to me.
Go ahead, Trevor, if you want to add.
I know, I've just interrupted terribly. I've just forgotten other people on the call, so go on.
Ian, did you want to say something there? So anything else to do with your listings other than just translate the content?
Yeah, I mean, we did have a few problems, mainly with American listings, where the Americans called certain items different things, and it got lost in translation, even though it was English. The American English is slightly different, and we did have a few problems with that. But once we knew about them, we've overcome them, and everything seems to be working.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Trevor. Go ahead. Anything besides translation that you found is important?
Well, I mean, converting into different currencies is quite difficult. Just from a kind of accounting point of view, and also kind of keeping up with the changes in exchange rates. And as I've discovered recently, you do get rather stung by PayPal fees. The PayPal fees are actually higher for international listings than they have cross-border fees and conversion fees. So that's well, I mean, it's a bit fiddly to deal with.
Yeah. Okay. And have you found out how to deal with that, Trevor? What did you do?
Well, I mean, you just take a figure, and I mean, it's also, in terms we usually sell a pro, so there's various things. I mean, you have the prices to, we use just a multiplier, and it's just, we have to set it every so often, and then it's not something which is like, it's not an automatic thing, and we have both the you've both got the price, and then you've got the the postage cost as well, and you have to you have to convert all those into different currencies, and hope the currencies don't move too much in the meantime, which is most of the case. There's also the issue with how do you repatriate the funds. Now it's with PayPal, it's you buy through eBay, then the funds go into PayPal, and you can they'll just go straight into your bank account from there at a not terribly good rate, but you have to live with that. And we use a currency trader to transfer our Amazon funds back to the UK, which is cheaper than getting them converted directly by Amazon.
Okay, thanks, Trevor. So so there are some technology or solutions and services that you can use to help handle payments. And we have a question specifically about payments, just to pick up a little bit on Trevor's points. So you've got options there for using marketplace management or e-commerce management software to help set your prices in different currencies for you. And there's also services out there which help you convert your sales receipts back into pounds at the most effective exchange rate. So services like Currencies Direct and World First are two that have specialist e-commerce desks that you can use. So just following up from that, Abe is asking about what payment methods are most favoured by the panel. How many use LCs? How many use LCs? Maybe Abe could drop us a message, or someone could chip in if they recognise that abbreviation. And how many use
UK? You don't have an awful lot of choice, really, in terms of what payments you offer if you sell on marketplaces. Really?
Yeah. And Gary, anything you'd like to add on payment systems, payment services?
You know what? I can't really help on selling or translating. I'm sort of more on moving product.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Ian, is that your experience as well? That you sort of go with the default?
Yeah, I mean, we're just solely PayPal. That's all we use. I mean, with regard to payments and currency exchange rates and everything, one good part of the web interpret software is that each morning they convert your UK selling price, update it with the exchange rate, and update the seller the prices on the international listings. So you don't have to worry about whether the euros drop dramatically overnight or anything like that. With regard to payment, we're just PayPal.
Okay, thanks, Ian.
Something you have to watch is hidden fees. I mean, things can be more expensive than you realise they are, because you not only you can update the euro price, but I discovered the other day that if we pay 1.9% on PayPal, but on top of that, we also pay there's a cross-border fee, which is somewhere between 0.5% and 1.5%, and the currency exchange rate they give you is 2.5% worse than base rate. So that adds up to like 6%. It's like an extra 4% in fees if you're selling to Australia from PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to factor these things in.
Yeah, absolutely. So often, particularly marketplace sellers can be on quite tight margins. So something that takes another 4% could actually start pushing them down into break even or even worse. So I'm going to pick up a question from Kenneth now. Kenneth is asking about international order fulfilment. So I think it should be right up your street, Gary, particularly about import duties and taxes. And I think we had a very similar question from Catherine, who was also asking about customs and taxes, and customers asking her what the duties is going to be that they have to pay. What's the best way to deal with that, do you think, Gary?
Okay, I think the thing is, Catherine and Kenneth, a lot of it depends on how you're selling and what brackets your products fall into. I think we can probably give you quite a lot of advice, but we would really need to understand your business. So I'm more than happy to help offline. There are some different duty calculators that plug on to certainly Magento's. May also be of use. So quite happy to help you offline and plug you into some people and give you the best of our knowledge. But I think there's quite a lot of information we'd need to know in order to do so.
Okay, thanks, Gary. So just to pick up on the point there about tools that you can use. So there is one called with the unimaginative name Duty Calculator, which it is a pay-for service, but you get some free usages. It calculates duties and taxes, and also has information in there about restrictions on importing certain goods, both by the countries that you're sending to, and there can also be restrictions from the carriers. There's also a free service available that does something similar, only on the duties and taxes part, provided by the EU. I think probably that's a URL to put out on Twitter, because it's quite a long, complex one. But if you follow the hashtag, which is shown in the bottom left of the screen, we'll tag it up with that, so you can pick that up from there. Also to Abe, who was asking about payment methods, and we didn't have a lot for you, I'm afraid, Abe. If you could put that question out on Twitter using that hashtag again, we'll absolutely try and get you some more advice on that. So, Ian, what's your experience been with either customers asking what's the duty going to be on that, or any other problems you've experienced with the sort of regulatory side, customs and duties and taxes?
Fortunately, we haven't experienced any problems at all. Our goods are normally underneath the thresholds for import duties into countries, so it's not something that we've had to deal with, I'm afraid. So I'm not much help on that one.
Okay, no problem. That sounds ideal. So that's in a way that's one solution. If you could, to keep things simple, at least at first, depending on the kind of products you sell, just try and get under the thresholds with the products that you sell internationally. Trevor, have you had any problems there with
we just leave them in? We just leave the we make the products available for sale, and then the duty is up to the person who purchases the product. I don't know if we it's duty calculations are complex, and we don't really get involved in it. We haven't had a problem with it, really.
Yeah,
I mean, most of our items are relatively inexpensive, but we don't. It's not something we have any control over.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's for Catherine. It sounds like a customer service kind of issue that people are asking. So just to wrap up on that topic, there are options. One is just restricting the products you sell internationally to under the threshold. The thresholds differ, so there's still some complexity there. Another is to actually try and answer your customers by using a service like Duty Calculator or the EU calculation service, so you can give them an answer. That's great customer service. Potentially opens you up to problems if you make a mistake. Another option is just to say sorry, we can't help you with that, and leave it to the buyer. So we have a question from Lorna that I'd like to raise. It's about returns. So Lorna's asking, how do you deal with returns from the US and Australia specifically? Do you find that customs and duty charges are a complaint from many US customers? Gary, do you have something to add on that? Returns, I guess we could talk about international returns generally, but is there anything different that you've seen for the US and Australia?
Well, generally, most of the contact is between the purchaser of the product and the seller. We do receive a lot of returns back, but what we're looking to do at the moment is to partner with some other fulfillment companies in the States, New Zealand, and Brazil. So with a new software development, we have clients of ours who will be able to have inventory parked in each of the local countries, which will, for bigger sellers, definitely be a route around paying with duty. So that's a development that's probably 2 or 3 months away for us.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Ian, do you find? I assume you get returns. Do you find any differences between the countries you sell to in the volume of returns, or what the customers are like to deal with?
No. Fortunately, we don't get many returns. We get less per 100 items selling internationally than we do in the UK. A lot of our items are low value, and quite a lot of the time, if we've made an error or the item's damaged in transit, rather than asking the customer to return it, we just tell them to dispose of it, and we write it off as a loss. Obviously, that doesn't apply to people selling more expensive items, but we found it's the easiest way to do it. Most cost-effective by far.
Okay. And have you found that there seems to be any difference between UK customers and international customers in how they are, or in how you deal with them?
When we started, we thought that international customers were probably a bit more picky. They want the slightly higher standards than the UK customers. So we had to adjust the way we dealt with the customers and the speed that we handled inquiries and bits and bobs like that. But we've modified things and we're coping quite well with their requirements.
Okay, thanks, Ian. So to move on to a slightly different topic, and I know it's one that a lot of people are asking about. Rachel is asking about it at the moment, and it's about software to manage inventory and sales. So there's actually lots of software out there now, including lots of homegrown UK-based companies who offer e-commerce and marketplace management software. So, Trevor, maybe you could tell us a bit about your software choice and how you found that for managing sales.
We use eSeller Pro, which, well, I mean, it was one of the. It is. I think it's one of the more expensive, and I think one of the better options available. It's very good at marketplace sales. I mean, that's what it's kind of set up for. So it allows us very easily to sell on multiple international marketplaces and manage the stock across different sites. So we have a single inventory figure which is shared. Well, it's not even shared. Basically, we have got 10 of something. It'll list 10 on every single site. So cuts down dramatically on overselling. So that still does happen. I wouldn't. It'd be very, very hard to do it without using some sort of management software.
Yeah,
my view anyway.
And do you supplement eSeller Pro with anything else, or does that handle absolutely everything?
Well, it depends. I mean, we do lots of different. When we use a product called Reply Manager to do the answer the questions, we use a product called Channel Max to do the repricing. We use Magento for our website. So it's kind of a little ecosystem of different products we use. But eSeller Pro is the kind of hub.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Trevor. I'm just going to for people who haven't heard of these products, that may have kind of made your mind boggle a little bit. So I'll just quickly tell you what each of those are that Trevor's mentioned. So eSeller Pro is a general e-commerce and marketplace management tool. That's put together as a kind of full service type of tool. So it handles orders, it handles listing to marketplaces. You can run a website from it. Not everyone who runs their own store decides to. So that's eSeller Pro. Channel Max is a tool that does automatic repricing. So you give Channel Max your rules or your preferences, and it changes the prices of products you sell automatically without human intervention, without you having to tell it what to price things to. Sounds a bit scary, but that kind of repricing or dynamic pricing software has safeguards to stop your prices going underneath a floor level that you specify, for example. I just mentioned here that there are lots of alternatives both to eSeller Pro and Channel Max. They're not the only products out there that provide these type of features. My site, WebRetailer, does have a directory of software in these categories of marketplace management and repricing. Reply Manager, that's a product for handling customer communication. So that might be direct emails, it might be messages that come through eBay's own customer service system, the eBay messaging system. It might be questions coming through Amazon's messaging system as well, and it brings them all into one central place and makes it easy for one or more customer service people on your side to handle those inquiries. So that's Reply Manager. And Trevor also mentioned Magento. Magento is a e-commerce platform. It's the kind of thing that we used to call a shopping cart. Which sounds quite antiquated. I think a lot of people still do call these systems shopping carts. It's owned by eBay, but isn't connected to eBay directly. You don't have to sell on eBay by any stretch of the imagination to use Magento, and it's a very full-featured, powerful piece of e-commerce software. With that, it has the downside that it's quite a beast to use. It's quite complicated, quite technical. There's some really good stuff done by a company called Understanding E on educating people how to use Magento and also how to use it with marketplace trading. So hopefully that's helped explain the some of that software rather than bamboozle you further. Please do ask questions or post on Twitter if you have questions about software packages that I've mentioned. So Ian, just sticking to that topic about the best software to manage inventory and sales, what do you use, and do you have any tips from your experience?
We started off, we used Linworks, and we've stuck with it for the last 18 months, and can't really fault it. It keeps all the inventory together. We sell on 9 eBay sites, 5 Amazon, 2 websites, and we also do drop shipping for 5 other people that sell on eBay. Keeps all the inventory in one place, prints your invoices out, prints your labels out. Can't fault it really. We use Reply Manager as well for the convenience of keeping all your messages in one place. But Linworks, yeah, it works fine with our Shopify store. Shopify, dead easy to set up. You can have your website up and running in a couple of hours, so that's fantastic as well. And the good thing about Linworks is we don't charge commission on sales like some other inventory software does. It's just a set fee per month, and that's it. So you know where you stand each month.
Okay. Thanks, Ian. So again, because people who haven't heard of these packages, I'll just try very quickly to explain. Linworks is similar to eSeller Pro, so it's a package for managing your orders and managing your inventory and listings. Shopify, in contrast with Magento, Shopify is a fully hosted e-commerce platform or shopping cart. So you don't have to install or download everything. It's a completely web-based system to run an online shop. And again, Ian is also a user of Reply Manager. Unlike these other types of software, Reply Manager is relatively unique in that it's got features for integrating messages from Amazon and eBay. There are plenty of other help desk and customer service systems. There is one called Robin, so that's Robin like the bird, R-O-B-I-N, and that specializes on e-commerce customer service. So a great fit. It doesn't have a direct integration with the marketplaces. This seems to be the only weakness. Okay, I'm going to move on to a different question now. I've got one from Patrick. He's asking, when you're selling low-value items, what can be done to reduce the costs? So he mentions the logistics. So is it possible to ship in bulk? So I guess that means multiple low-value items together rather than single items. So I'm going to put this one to Ian again, because you did specifically mention that you've got low-value items there. How have you handled the cost of shipping them?
All our stuff, all our orders are sent Royal Mail, international, direct to the customers. We have had a look at shipping to an overseas fulfilment centre sort of thing, but the costs involved, it's just not worth it for us, because obviously extra costs will be passed on to the customer, and that would mean that we're not competitive in their marketplace then. I think we pay for an international parcel up to 2 kilos about £5 to the States and Australia. So, the costs of that are quite good for us. Our customer pays those, so we're happy.
Okay. So, yeah, I have to admit, £5 for up to 2 kilos, it sounds comparable with sort of domestic shipping to me. So, and how did you get that rate, Ian? Was it by shopping around and negotiating, or is that just the standard?
I don't know. We keep getting, we're quite lucky really, we keep getting Royal Mail contact us and giving us different codes for our Royal Mail system. And we're just getting cheaper and cheaper because of the volume we are doing now. I've been looking at the orders that have come through since we've been on the webinar. Out of about 40 orders, 30 of those are going to Australia. Because we are doing the volumes, then you do get a better price.
Okay. Thanks, Ian. So basically, as you scale up volume, you sounds like your options open a little bit, and also the volume discounts start coming in of their own accord. And I guess you've then also got the leverage if you didn't feel like you're getting a good deal to try and hammer it down a little bit more.
Yeah, it's nice when your suppliers actually contact you and say they can do you a better price rather than you having to shop around.
Yeah, definitely, very nice. So Gary, can I put that same one to you? So when you're selling low value items, is there any other advice or anything that sellers should look into to try and get a competitive rate for shipping those low value items overseas?
I think on the low value overseas items, really the Royal Mail International Postal Service is about as cheap as it gets. The tracking and signatures is pretty flaky on that service, but it is cheap. If people are selling a reasonable amount of volume, for example, to the US, and they're trying to deliver relatively quickly by air freight, rather than sending lots of parcels out, for example, on DHL, you can consolidate those parcels into a bigger carton and then potentially have them distributed in the US. Where this works is on products where you're going to get stung on the volume weight ratio. Again, we know a reasonable amount of this and we can advise on it offline, but it does depend on the speed you're trying to get to your market and the value and weight of your product.
Okay, thanks, Gary. So sort of 2 votes there for in terms of low cost shipping of the Royal Mail International. And then there's also that option that Gary mentioned, that if you use a fulfilment service, so the best known fulfilment services to the audience is probably FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, but there's lots of other companies that can fulfill orders for you. So that means you send your products instead of direct to the customer, you send them in advance to a fulfillment center. They in bulk. They unpack your products, store them in their warehouse, and so when you get an order, instead of sending out the parcel yourself, you instruct the fulfillment center to send it out for you, and they're closer to your customer if you work that way for international sales. So you could use a US fulfillment center for US customers, so that they can send it both more quickly and potentially more cheaply. It's a relatively complex service and not necessarily cheaper. It may get your orders to your customers quicker if that's something that you need to work on. Okay, something that I think's interesting that we haven't touched on. Roz has, I hope I'm saying your name right there, Roz. Roz specifically asked about a marketplace called TradeMe, who are very big in New Zealand. Said she has trouble registering with TradeMe because she doesn't have an address in New Zealand, which is understandable. But just generally, Ian, have you had experience with using marketplaces other than eBay and Amazon, and how's that worked out?
Yeah, we've looked at TradeMe recently, but like Ross says, you do have to be a resident in New Zealand to use the service. We have heard of some sellers actually having friends or family over there, and they've registered an account in their name, and then they ship the items over from the UK. But as far as I'm aware, it's against their terms of service. We're constantly on the lookout for new markets. It's top list of our priorities now. We seem to be concentrating more on the international markets than we do on the UK market. So any avenue we can, we're going to start looking for.
Yeah. Okay. So probably not a big help there, Roz, on TradeMe in particular. So Ian's mentioned that if you know people in New Zealand, a friendly Kiwi, they can maybe register for you, but that may not be within the terms of service of TradeMe. So again, if you could maybe tweet that out to the hashtag that's on the screen, we'll try and see if we can get you a bit more on that. And yes, there are lots of other marketplaces. So there are other marketplaces in the UK. They're not as big as eBay and Amazon. The one that comes to mind is Play, which is now Rakuten Play. They were acquired by Rakuten, a Japanese company who have been buying up or setting up marketplace sites around the world, actually. And there's in different parts of the world there's specialist marketplaces. So there's, for example, there's marketplaces if you sell collectibles like coins, or if you trade musical instruments. There's specialist marketplaces for that, which can potentially work very well. There's some areas that, although you can buy these things on eBay, eBay has good competition from specialists. And in certain countries, so we've mentioned New Zealand, there's Trade Me, but also in China, Alibaba is much stronger than eBay and Amazon. In Poland, there's a marketplace called Allegro who are very big. So don't assume that eBay and Amazon are your only options. It is worth looking into the marketplaces. So I think we're about there in terms of time for the Q&A. I hope everyone's found that useful, and that huge thanks to Trevor, Ian and Gary for telling us so much about their businesses, being so open with their own experiences. Do remember that there are other ways to interact, and I'm sure Gemma will summarise as well. And we do want to help, so please do post on Twitter or any of the other medium with your questions if there's something we didn't get to. So thanks to the panelists, thanks to for listening, and I'll hand you back to Gemma.
Thank you very much, Andy. And what an intriguing session. Twitter has been going crazy, and the hashtag has been widely used by a lot of the audience. So thank you very much. And it's great to see just how many of you are on Twitter. So we'll make sure that we follow you all and kind of get a response to as many of those questions that have come in. This is just a reminder that the entire international e-commerce webinar series will be up on our YouTube channel in the next kind of 24 to 48 hours. The first two webinars are already up there, so going international via online marketplaces and taking your website in digital marketing global. So you can go and watch those now if you wanted to, and we'll get this one up as quick as we can. Now, if we didn't get to your question fully, or if in some cases the answer to that question has brought even more questions, which is a very positive thing, please do either tweet them using the hashtag OTEecommerce, or alternatively, click the link in the verification email that you would have received in the past kind of 72 hours or so, and become part of the Open to Export community. If you need advice, guidance or clarification, you can post your question on our discussion forum, or again you can tweet us using the hashtag OTEecom to get an answer from our experts and from the wider Open to Export community. So that's just about it for the webinar, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Andy, Gary, Ian and Trevor for being part of this webinar, and for all of our panelists, speakers and case studies over the entire series. We have a year-round calendar of activity on e-commerce, so do please keep getting involved with us and do interact with the site and become part of the community. I'm going to end it there, guys, so thank you very much for your time today. The session will go quiet while we close off, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.